What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at The Distance, video number 7 for today. Ishe Smith versus Fernando Guerrero, my official prediction. Overall, very, very interesting fight for all of us boxing fans, because Fernando Guerrero has been spotlighted for the last couple of years or so. More in particular, in the last year, because he's been fighting on, main events on Showtime. And me personally, I'm very tired of seeing him fight these very short fights. I think it's about time he fights. He steps up and fights a fighter on the level of Ishe Smith, a fighter that he's going to get some rounds in against, and going to be. I think he may be tested in this fight, and not necessarily tested in the way of having trouble in the matchup, but tested into seeing how well he does going against the veteran fighter going into the later stages of the fight. And that's what he gets against Ishe Smith. Ishe Smith has very good skill, very subtle, and also I think he's a very smart technical fighter, and nothing more than that. He doesn't give you the most exciting fights, despite the fact that his fight against Danny Jacobs was quite exciting. I did enjoy that performance very much, because it was, and I'm not going to say Smith is a very boring fighter or anything. I don't believe that there's a such thing as a boring fighter. I just think Smith is just very technical, and doesn't really, and it's not that he doesn't have the style or ability to draw up crowds. I think that a lot of us hardcore fans, and a lot of us fans of pugilism in general, just have to be a fan of what he brings to the ring when he fights. He doesn't have the biggest knockout ratio or anything, doesn't provide big knockouts, but he has skill. And something I like about Ishe Smith is the fact that and he's a little bit slick, but sometimes he has kind of a little bit of that upright stance of that European style, to where he throws his left jab and then the hand goes back up. The hand's right back up after the jab to protect himself. And I like how he's very patient in the ring, and doesn't get too tense, despite the fact that he did get a little bit tensed and worked up against Danny Jacobs, and perhaps more than likely the most exciting fight of his career. One of the most exciting fights of his career. I did enjoy Sekou Powell versus Ishe Smith. I did enjoy his fight against Randall Bailey. I did enjoy that fight as well. But me, I'm just overall, I'm a fan of Ishe Smith. I like what he brings to the table in matches. In this fight against Fernando Guerrero, he has to use that veteranship to his advantage. In this fight, I think he does have to be patient. He needs to keep his composure in this fight, but also I do believe he needs to throw a lot of feints, and not only feints but follow-ups to those feints, because I think that Fernando Guerrero, with his style, that explosiveness, being the southpaw fighter, I think with that explosiveness and high intensity that Fernando Guerrero fights with, I think Ishe Smith should take advantage of that high intensity, the work rate, because if he throws the feint, I think that Fernando Guerrero will commit to the feint and try to throw. But if he can pretty much get the straight right hand counter, over the top against Guerrero, I think he could continuously counter and make Guerrero a little more well aware of what he throws. And I just think he needs to really time. I think he needs to time Guerrero in this fight. Not only does he need to time him, but he does need to kind of keep in close quarters and kind of cut off the ring. Not only cut off the ring, but not necessarily chase Guerrero. Kind of just stay in Guerrero's face. And I know that Smith has that ability to kind of stay in his face, but use the jab to kind of stay around. Use the jab to keep that distance. Use the jab to set up a straight right. Feint with the jab. Throw the straight right hand. Throw the left uppercut to the body. Just use a different repertoire in this fight in order to win the fight. Ishe Smith has that ability, and also kind of the subtle movements that he does when he kind of bends the knees. I like how he has the wide base, bends the knees, and kind of evades shots, and kind of comes up and throws a jab. We need to see a lot of that in this fight. Fernando Guerrero, as I mentioned, fights with a lot of intensity. Is a very intense fighter, southpaw, which provides a lot of trouble to orthodox fighters at times, especially orthodox fighters who pretty much have trouble against southpaws. Fernando Guerrero in this fight has to, being a younger fighter, the fresher fighter, and middleweight being his home, because Ishe Smith is a welterweight. Pretty much he's a welterweight, and he moved up to 154 and now 160 in a matter of like 2 years. Moved up to 160 when he fought Danny Jacobs, and I believe he was going to move back down, and he didn't move down. But he just needs being the bigger fighter, being the taller fighter, being the southpaw, and fresher fighter. He has to use all that to his advantage. He has to maintain a high work rate. He has to move a lot, and box a lot on the move against Ishe Smith, and throw a lot of combinations against Ishe Smith. Because with Ishe Smith, he doesn't really throw he doesn't throw more than 3 punches at a time. So Guerrero has to take advantage of that. He has to get his shots off first. Not only does he have to get his shots off first, he has to move. He has to stay off the ropes. He has to keep it. I think in this fight he has to keep it at the. If he doesn't move, he has to keep it at the center of the ring. He doesn't want to back up. He wants to just keep it at the center of the ring. Work. Pretty much work. That's just what Fernando Guerrero needs to do, is just work. He needs to work. He's quicker. Quicker hands, better feet. I just think that, and also the angles. Fernando Guerrero fights jazz from very good angles. I think he needs to use the angles and all that to his advantage in order to win this fight. With this fight, I'm very glad as a boxing fan that this is a fight that I don't think is gonna last. I think it's gonna last I think it's gonna go the distance. I think it's gonna go the full 10. I'm glad as a fan to see a fighter like Fernando Guerrero get built up correctly and fight a fighter like Ishe Smith, to get him prepared for the big time, and not necessarily being rushed in there. Fernando Guerrero, in my opinion, is not ready for to face the big guys at 160 like a Stern, Jacobs, Parag, Pavlik, Martinez. He's not ready, but fights like these will get him prepared for fights like that in the future. And I think he's being brought the right way now with this fight against Ishe Smith, and hopefully they gradually bring him up to fighters on that level, veteran fighters now that can prepare him for a big title shot in the future. So I'm going to go with Fernando Guerrero in this fight. I think he's going to outwork him. And I think he's going to outwork him, especially with the southpaw style, because Ishe Smith, the left hand is usually the hand that's up. And also Fernando Guerrero's power is in his left. So I think that Guerrero's going to give Ishe Smith a lot of trouble. But I think they both are going to give each other a little bit of trouble, but I just think that Guerrero just takes this fight by a decision. I think he's going to win a wide decision. Very convincing decision. So I'm going to go with Fernando Guerrero decision. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. That was Distance. Peace.